Hi guys, today we are going to be reviewing for the Chapter 5 test. This time, instead of using the one in the book, I used some of the problems from the book, but I kind of made up my own test for this one. So it's going to be on quizzes to practice as well as quizzes for the actual test so that we're getting more practice with this platform. There are only 15 questions, so let's get to it. All right, so for the first one, it says 6.24 divided by 6. So we're going to have to show our work for that problem. So what I did is any problems that you needed to show your work for, I included work paper for those, and they're actually already numbered for you. So if I were you, I would just rip the sheet off the back, and that way you have it to do your work on. So let's look at number 1. So it is, let me get a good color here. All right, so 6 on the outside and 6.24 on the inside. And then we move our decimal straight up to the top. 6 goes into 6 one time. 1 times 6 is 6. I subtract. I bring down. Can 6 go into 2? Nope. Bring down my 4. 6 times 4 is 24, and that is 0. So we always box in or circle our answers. So my answer was 1.04, so I'm going to come back, find 1.04, which is here. And most of you would probably check that off, not highlight it, but just so that you can see it on your end. Okay? All right. The next problem here we have is 8 divided by 2. So I'm going to go to my work paper again. Number 2. I'm going to put in the problem. Obviously, for you guys, you would go ahead and actually just write that in. I brought it over so I wouldn't forget it. So I have 8 divided by 0.2. Now, in this case, if you look at this, I have a decimal on the outside in the divisor, so I can't leave it like that. I've got to move it one place over. That means this one, where I know it's not there, but it's really there at the end of a whole number, I've got to move it over 1 and fill that gap with a 0. Put my decimal straight up into my quotient. Now, my new problem looks like this. 2 times what gives me 8? 4. 4 times 2 is 8. That's 0. Am I done? No. I have to bring down every number, even if it is a 0. And now that would be a 0 here. So my answer is simply 40. So I come back to number 2, check off B for 40, and I move on. All right, number 3. It says, Sam solved the equation shown. 12 divided by 10 to the 3rd power equals n, which correctly states the solution and an explanation of how he solved this equation. Well, for me, I would go ahead and solve it first so I actually knew what it was. So if I'm dividing by a power of 10, I know I'm moving my decimal to the left. I know my decimal is after a whole number. And I'm moving my decimal 3 places to the left because I have a 3 in my exponent. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. And in this case, I have an empty spot, so I'm going to put a 0 in. So I'm looking for a number or an answer that has 0.012 in it. So this has 0.012, that would work. This one has 120, that's out. This has 0.12, that's out. And this one has 120,000. That's definitely out. So let's read A and make sure that we picked correctly. Sam moved the decimal 3 places to the left, giving him 12 thousandths. Yes, absolutely. A would be the right choice. Number 4, determine if the equation is true or false. 18 and 5/100 divided by 10 to the second power. So I have to move my decimal 2 places to the left. So I would go 1, 2. That means our answer should be 0.1805. So that would be false. The next one is 1.7 divided by 10 to the third power. That means we're moving our decimal 3 places to the left. 1, 2, 3. Fill your blanks. So I should have an answer of 0.0017, which here we do, so this one is correct. You notice that I didn't go to my work paper for problems 3, 4, and 5. There's a reason for that. Because you're just moving your decimal, I don't need to see that, so you do not have to turn in work for those questions. All right, moving on to the next page. We have number 6 here. It says determine if the equation is true or false. So same thing we were doing before, but this time instead of having an exponent, we just have 100, which is a power of 10. And it has 2 zeros. So 2 zeros means I move 2 places to the left. That means my answer is 0.315. So that is true. Same answer they had. Number 7 says Cora has a spool of ribbon that is 28.8 yards long. She will cut the ribbon into 6 equal pieces to make bows. What is the length of the piece of ribbon? So this is one where we're going to have to go to our work paper. So we got a number 7 in our work paper. And we have to take 28 and 8/10 divided by 6. Can 6 go into 2? Nope. Can 6 go into 28? Yes. At least 4 times. 6 times 4 is 24. When I subtract, I get 4 left over. Make sure your decimal's up there. Bring down your 8. 6 times 8 is 48. So our answer for number 7 is 4.8. So we go back, find 4.8, which is D, and go on to number 8. Wyatt is training for a race. When he trains, he runs a total of 32.2 miles each week. How many miles did Wyatt run in one day? So how many days are in a week? If you're right, you would have said 7. So we'd have to divide this by 7 to figure out how many miles he runs in one day. So back to our work paper. We put 32 and 2/10 on the inside, divided by 7. 7 cannot go into 3, but 7 can go into 32. 7 times 4 is, 28. 32 minus 28 is 4. Bring down our 2. And 7 times 6 is 42. So our answer here is he runs 4.6 miles. 4.6 miles, which would be A. Number 9, which expression is equal to 23 and 16/100 divided by 5 and 3/10? All you're doing here is moving the decimal because you know you couldn't divide with a divisor that has a decimal in it. So if it helps you, you could set it up like this. And now you can see that, okay, I have to move this one place over, so I'd have to move this one place over. So that would give us a problem of 231.6 divided by 53. So 231.6 divided by 53. So that would be C right here. If you didn't need to set up that division problem, you probably would have just went like this. 1, 1, and then picked C as well. I don't have you showing your work for that one because, again, it's just simply as moving at the decimal. Number 10 is another power of 10 problem. It says Olivia has 225 feet of yarn to make 100 bracelets. She uses the same amount of yarn for each bracelet. How much yarn will, I forgot to change the name there, sorry. It's supposed to be Olivia, use to make one bracelet. So in this case, all you're doing is moving the decimal. You're moving the decimal 2 places because 100 has 2 zeros. So 2, 2, 5. Understood the decimal is here. 1, 2. So I have 2.25 feet to make each bracelet. It's a lot of yarn. And again, no showing work for that one because it's just moving your decimal. And we move on to the last couple problems. So this one is an estimation problem. I don't have you turning in your work for this one either because a lot of you are pretty good at doing these in your head. Jaden drove 368.6 miles for each gallon of gas. The car can travel 22 miles. Select a reasonable estimate of the number of gallons of gas Henry, see, I didn't change that name again either. Oh, sorry about that, guys. Mark all that apply. So, with that being said, let's look at this. So 368.6, I'm going to just write this up here so I can see what the original problem would look like. And then now I can go ahead and start estimating. So my divisor is 22, so I'm definitely going to estimate that to be 20. So now I've got to think, okay, what is close to 36 that 2 would go into evenly? So I could definitely do 340. I could do 360 because 360 divided by 20 is 18. So that would work, 18 gallons. But it says mark all that applies, so I must have to do another one. So if I did 360, the other one I could do is 380 divided by 20. Because remember, we always want one below and above. So that would give me 19. Okay? So that one's going to be worth 2 points. There'll be 2 answers that you need to get, and you're simply just estimating the dividends and the divisor and getting your 2 answers. Now the next 4 you're definitely going to have to show work for. And it says Kaylee is making small bags of dried fruit from a large bag of dried fruit that weighs 6.37 pounds. If she puts the same amount in each of the 7 bags, how much will each bag weigh? So we move to our work paper. And remember, this is a division test, so you really shouldn't question much of what you need to do here other than the fact of you need to divide. So I come here and I set up my problem. I have 7 on the outside, 6 and 37/100ths on the inside. 6 cannot go into 7, so I put a 0, make sure my decimal's in place. 7 times what gets me close to 63? Well, it just so happens that 9 times 7 is 63, and that's 0. Am I done? Nope, gotta bring all my numbers down. So I bring down my 7, 7 times 1 is 7, I subtract, I get a 0. So my answer is 91/100ths. So I write in my answer here, and these, we're dealing with pounds, so an acceptable label would be pounds or pounds, like that, an abbreviation. All right, the next one, 3 and 45/100ths divided by 1 and 5/10ths. So to our work paper, and I set it up with 3.45 on the inside and 1.5 on the outside. Now, I'm gonna have to move my decimal because I can't have a decimal in the divisor. So I move it 1 place outside, one place inside. So my new problem should look like this. 34.5 divided by 15. So 15 goes into 34 twice. That's 30. 4 is left over. Bring down my 5. 15 times 3 is 45. So your answer for this one is 2.3. Number 14 says, Everett buys cucumbers that cost 58 cents per pound. He pays $2.03 for the cucumbers. How many pounds of cucumbers did, oh brother, I did not change the name there either. Mrs. Deane did not do very good with these names. So how much did Everett actually buy? So, off to our work paper again. Number 14. And that would set up as 203 on the inside and 0.58 on the outside. We know that we have to move those decimals. So 1, 2, 1, 2. So my new problem is going to look like this. Okay. 58 can't go into 2, can't go into 20, but it can go into 203 3 times. 3 times 58 is 174. I'm going to have to borrow to solve this. So this would be a 1, this would be a 9, and this would be a 13. 13 minus 4 is 9. 9 minus 7 is 2. 1 minus 1 is 0. Now, can I have a remainder when I'm dividing decimals? No way. So I add a 0 here. And actually, I'm going to do that in a different color so that you guys can see I added that in. And now I'm going to say, I'm going to bring that down. 58 times what is 290? Well, that is 5. 5 times 58 is 290. So now I no longer have a remainder. I have an answer of 3 5/10. So back here, it would be 3 5/10 pounds. So again, it could be LBS or POUNDS. Either of those will work in quizzes. So be careful, make sure you do the right label. In our last problem, we have 2 2400ths divided by 3500ths. So last time to the work paper. And our original problem would look like this. And you don't always have to rewrite them. I just like to rewrite them. I don't like to have it messy. So when I rewrite it, it looks like this. 224 in the inside. So 35 cannot go into 2, cannot go into 22, but it can go into 224 6 times. 6 times 35 is 210. And I subtract, and I get 14. Now, okay, so I have 14, I have a remainder, that's not okay. So I add a 0, I bring it down. And now I have 140. Well, 35 times 4 is 140. So our final answer here for number 15 is 6.4. So back here, 6.4. And at this point, you would double check your work, make sure everything is correct if it was the test, and then you would go on to quizzes and input your answers. If we have time in class, I will ask that you guys go ahead and put your answers in as well, because the more practice you have with quizzes, the better for your test. So your test looks identical to this. It has the identical same problems. I did just change some of the names and some of the numbers. Like you can see, that's why some of my names are all messed up on the review test, because I changed them for the review, but I obviously didn't change them all the way through the problems. I must have missed a couple. So just focus on the numbers, not so much the names, and we'll be good to go. Let me know if you have any questions.